This is the Innovation Conversation. I'm Kevin Coop.
And I'm Tom Furphy.
So, Tom, I was wondering what you thought of the report that came out yesterday about the fact that Uber, having been unable to buy Grubhub, now apparently is negotiating to buy Postmates. This would seem to indicate that there's a lot of consolidation going on in this particular segment. Was that inevitable?
Well, I think it's inevitable. I mean, these platforms, they're all valued or valuable based upon their user bases, right? And you get and retain your user base by providing a range of valuable services. We all use Uber. We love the value of that service. Is that alone enough to build and continue to build a valuable company? Very well could be, and it is a valuable company. But we know that Uber's been kind of in and around the delivery space quite a bit, right? Clearly Uber Eats is a big venture of theirs. They've dabbled around the retail delivery, grocery delivery space. Haven't really been able to get that to take off like you'd like to see it take off. Not sure exactly why. But the extension for them into Postmates and their delivery business does make sense. So yeah, I think that some consolidation is inevitable. I don't know what the ultimate number is, but just think from a consumer standpoint, how many of these apps do you want to bounce between? And if there's a logical, alpha to roll them up, that probably does make some sense.
Is it inevitable? One of the things that I think it was the Wall Street Journal story about the whole sector said that, frankly, nobody's making money at this point. It's a long-term play, hoping that there's enough an economies of scale, which is one of the reasons I guess there's consolidation. But is it likely that at some point the fees, the costs of these things in terms of whatever consumers pay or whatever retailers pay are going to have to go up just to allow these things to survive?
This is the interesting one, because if you ask a restaurateur, in the food delivery space, say, are these services worth it? They're not going to outright say no because they want to have the relationship with the services, but the chunk that they take out of the average ticket is significant. I mean, on a $50 food order, the delivery provider is going to take north of $15. So that leaves a lot less for the restaurant. And yet somehow these services are still not profitable at those levels. I mean, it's kind of as simple as we've always talked about in grocery delivery, right? You can be profitable if you get delivery density, right? That means if you go out on a route and you have drops every so often, and you can load those up over the time that's invested by the driver and the vehicle, then you can make a profit off of that. These services, these delivery services, tend to be point-to-point type services, right? Where an order is generated, the associate goes, gets the order, grabs it, brings it out to the delivery point, then they get another order and they have to go back to whatever restaurant it would be, or a different restaurant, and deliver it out. So you've got a model that's tough to make money, that's charging an amount that is barely tenable for the market being the restaurant. And so something's going to have to give. The economics are kind of tough all around. I don't know how you ultimately make it up in volume.
Is one of the other inevitabilities the idea that some of these, like a Grubhub or a Postmates, they've been largely focused on the restaurant sector, right? Maybe some convenience store stuff mixed in. Is it likely though that they're going to try and expand their palette, so they're actually going more aggressively after the supermarket business? Maybe trying to figure, well, maybe that Instacart's gotten too big, and therefore there's an opportunity to kind of come in and steal some of that business away.
Well, the model becomes more profitable when the deliverers deliver either more stuff per each order, or can deliver more orders while they're out on a route. So the more types of entities you can load into that route or that delivery, generally the better, because you can drive a higher basket amount and better density and volume over the route. So I do think that extension into the grocery space will make some sense. it's a space that doesn't have a whole lot of margin to start with on that. So it would probably have to be a fee for delivery. But if they have a relatively efficient route going and they can offer an efficient and a sufficiently low fee that's valuable to the customer, then that could certainly work.
By the way, not to go off on one of my Instacart rants, but I will. Yeah, I was amazed the other day. It was interesting. There was a local news story here in Connecticut about how Stop and Shop was basically going to start using Instacart to supplement its own business. It still had its own and Peapod that has that infrastructure, but they were just doing too many deliveries and they couldn't handle it, so they decided to bring Instacart in to do some of it, which is fine. I get that. What was interesting in the news story is they listed all the Connecticut retailers that are actually doing business with Instacart. And I'm thinking to myself, this is insane. Who looks at that and says, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, because it's Stop and Shop and it's a little Stu Leonard's and it's Fairway and it's these guys and these guys. It'll be Wegmans when they move into Harrison, New York, which is just over the border. I mean, it's everybody doing business with Instacart. Well, God bless Instacart, but what are these guys thinking?
Well, yeah. I mean, as Instacart, I love it. And as a customer of Instacart, I love it. Because now I can go to Instacart and choose from all these options. It's awesome. Right? They become my agent. They become my trusted source. So yeah, they definitely love it. In this Stop and Shop instance, if you have more volume than you can handle with your labor and you're staying customer centric, you want to serve those shoppers that are giving you their demand. I don't have any issue whatsoever at outsourcing the labor to Instacart. That's fine, because you're still the primary branded experience. It's your customer data, your transaction, and if you can leverage their labor and if their labor is skilled and well presented and whatnot, that can be a great synergy.
No, listen, I think you and I agree on this. The only thing you don't want to outsource is your list.
Exactly.
Right. You don't want to give them access to your data. Make the deliveries, use the cars, do all this. But no, there are
customer.
Anyway, to move on. So the other interesting thing that's happened just in the last couple of weeks has been this companies that have decided they are going to boycott advertisers who are going to boycott Facebook and some of its other properties. Now, some of them are going to do it for July. Some of them are going to do it July and August. A couple, I think, have actually indicated that they're going to do it right through the end of the year. And there are companies that are familiar to our viewers, right? It's Coke, it's Pepsi, it's Unilever, it's Colgate. I mean, it's these companies are saying that we really have to rethink who we're being involved with because of the hate speech that they see as being prevalent on Facebook. And to me, I mean, first of all, it's very interesting that it's happening now. And maybe part of the reason it's happening now is because there does seem to be a lot of raised consciousness in the country, specifically around social justice and race. But I also think it's interesting because it does point out the degree to which companies, more than ever in their histories, are really being forced, partially by cultural and social currents, but also by technology, to take a stand. And that's one of the great innovations of what technology forces companies to do. They have to take positions. They cannot be neutral, because in not taking a stand on social issues, you are taking on a stand on a social issue, and you can find yourself on the wrong side of history. And this is remarkable to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think companies, you really need to take that stand. And historically, there was a lot of good reason to take the stand, and maybe more companies should have taken stands sooner or earlier than now. But with such heightened awareness now, and for very good reason, we need to have this heightened awareness. Companies we're never going to change the narrative if everybody sits back, right? We're never going to actually create the positive change that so many of us want to see. So you have to step up as a company to get behind that. Not just in a marketing message, though. That's where I really, really hope that these companies that are stepping up with this message, they actually have to get behind that message. They actually have to do the hard work, to make the changes that they need to make, that they themselves can control, to do their part toward the overall transformation that has to happen. And yeah, by sitting back and not saying anything, you're either saying, this is not important to me, or it's certainly not, it's not as important as, my whatever kind of standard corporate branding is, which I just think is wrong now. So yeah, so by being silent, in a way, you're absolutely making a stance that's probably not a great stance to take.
Well, and I mean, and the thing is for many companies, it's totally on brand to take a stand. And it was so interesting that when,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Starbucks, they initially said, no, you can't wear Black Lives Matter T-shirts or masks in the store as an employee. And that seemed so off-brand that they quickly turned around and said, okay, in fact, we're going to supply the T-shirts because
Right.
we recognize that this is something that is very consistent with our message. Um, it was almost surprising that when Whole Foods, owned by Amazon, basically said the same thing to its employees. As we record this, they have not changed their mind on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying that, no, you cannot wear a Black Lives Matter mask, which just strikes me as being, again, kind of off brand for Whole Foods. And no, I mean, Bezos has made the right statements. He has gone online and said, if you don't think Amazon should be supporting Black Lives Matter, then I'm happy to lose you as a customer. He came
I
right out.
think that's authentic too. I don't think that's branding, that's calculated. I think that is authentic.
And so they've written checks. They've written big checks. They're doing things to support, the causes that they seem are important. So for Whole Foods then to turn around and say you can't wear the mask, it's like, well, wait a minute. You're willing to talk and you're willing to write a check, but you're not willing to let us stand up for the same cause that you have said you think is important. And I think that's the kind of thing people have to avoid.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. Amazon can tend to be a big company that we talk about Amazon kind of running these separable single-threaded businesses where, people are kind of fully engrossed in their own world and, don't necessarily have, they're wired into the bigger structure, but they have a bunch of autonomy to do things themselves, and that aids innovation and speed and all that good stuff. You wonder if in this case somebody in the in line management, obviously at a very senior level, but in line management at Whole Foods made that decision for whatever reason, and you got to wonder how in tune or how aware this Bezos and team was of that. So we'll see. I think there's probably more to come on that. To me, it feels like they should embrace that, and they should embrace, put forth any messaging on your mask that you want to put, as long as it's not hateful. Right. And is supports a good cause. You as an individual, we should celebrate that. We should celebrate your individuality. We should celebrate the causes that matter to you, and you should feel very free to express that through your mask.
To be fair, I mean, this is in terms of its own lifespan. Amazon is fairly late to this party, only in the sense that I can remember now. Well, I don't know, 15 years ago, you and I went. First time you and I ever went to a ball game together in Seattle, and I can remember looking around the stadium and saying, Amazon. So how is Amazon not on everything? And you looked at me and said, Amazon doesn't do that. That's not their thing. And now, flash forward however many years, and they bought the naming rights for a stadium in Seattle, and they're calling it what, Global Climate Initiative Park or what?
Yeah, Climate Pledge Arena, I believe.
Climate Pledge Arena, right?
Yeah.
Right. So they have adapted in the same way I think so many other businesses have had to adapt.
Yeah, well, I mean, for years, Amazon's philosophy or strategy was to take any profits, any cash generated by the business, and reinvest it directly in the business, directly in the customer experience, in making Prime better, in making personalization and, replenishment and those things all better. And by doing that, they're going to serve their customer better over time. That's going to organically grow the company and then enable it later on to do things like, be a better corporate citizen, a better social citizen, and do those things. And I think you're seeing that happen now. For years, they would never do kind of broad scale external advertising. They did way back in the day. So in the 90s, a few years in to the company, they were doing it, but then they stopped for a really long time. And you're starting to see a lot more of that now. Of course, they are the second largest company in the world with a 1.3 or 1.4 trillion dollar market cap. You know, they have to step up now. They have to advertise more broadly, and they have to truly get behind real causes. And I think they are. And I think the Climate Pledge Arena is a great example of, we think this is really important. We're going to put our money behind the naming rights for this arena. And this is something that, you know, anytime something is televised from here, or, you know, anytime anybody comes to visit this arena, it's something that they think about. And it's a good thing.
Fascinating evolution that keeps going on. Well, that's it for this week's Innovation Conversation. I'm Kevin Coop.
And I'm Tom Furphy.
I will see you next time, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.